I wanted to make a video that's dedicated to a tool that's part of the gradient tool, and it's the luminosity mask, because it's something I use all the time. You'll see me using them a lot in the actual, videos of the different projects. So the way it works is, let's say here we have this photo of Notre Dame. Back in the day, what happened is this. I would make a gradient, okay, and lower, for example, the exposure, because I really wanted, have a sort of a more dramatic sky, and maybe I can add some, yellow in the sky and some magenta. I made it darker, but here's the problem. By doing that, look at Notre Dame itself. The rooftop is darker too at the same time. I'm kind of overdoing it, so you see what I mean. Now, there's a new option here called Range Mask Off. If you put it onto, I've never used color, I always use luminance. And the way it works is basically, it's going to make a mask. So, if you hold on the Option key and you move this slider, you will understand. You see, by default, what's happening, you see the gradient here being applied, okay? The gradient is what's there in white. You see, if I make it smaller, and then I click here again with the Option key, you can see it's smaller. So here is the gradient. Okay, let me put it back to how it was. Okay, so that's the gradient now. As I move this to the right, check this out. We start seeing Notre Dame. Okay, we start seeing the trees. What does that mean? That means that now it's creating a luminance mask. It's based on what's bright. That's why it's called luminance, and a mask. So a mask is black conceal, white reveals. So Notre Dame is not black, but it's kind of gray and is getting toward black. And what's happening is basically it's automatically going to mask Notre Dame so that this gradient is not going to be applied on Notre Dame. Check this out. Okay, without the mask, look at the rooftop here. With the mask, we still get a bit of a gradient. Without the mask, with the mask. Without the mask, with the mask. And you can hold on the Option key to see the mask in action. No mask, some mask. No mask, some mask. Okay? And you can do other things like smoothness or anything, but I don't use it. The thing is, often you see people in photos, they have this sort of gradient, and then you can, because there's something is sticking out, now that's also dark and doesn't look natural. So with this, you can make the sky darker without making Notre Dame darker, which is really cool. And you'll see me doing that over and over again. Just to give you an idea, the way we used to do it back in the day, before that option existed, so you had a gradient, and you can still do that today, which is pretty cool. So here is a gradient. There is an option here called brush. Now this brush works with this gradient, so it's a little complex to work it around. So we have a gradient where we're applying this. Now, if I click on brush, okay, I can extend that gradient. So I can, whatever value is here, I could like paint it here. So I'm making things darker. Whatever is happening here, I'm extending it with a brush, okay? But you also have the option to erase, okay? So I can erase the gradient wherever I'm brushing, okay? The problem is that if I start doing here, I'm going to erase it on Notre Dame and on the sky. So Command Z to undo. So there is a workaround which works, which is called Auto Mask. And Auto Mask is basically when I'm going to paint, you see there's a little minus. When I'm going to paint over the rooftop, it's going to try to erase the gradient only on the rooftop. And it does a pretty good job. If you look, it does a pretty good job. So now the gradient, if I put my mouse over the pin here, you can see in red where it's being applied, the mask, the same mask that we had before, and where it's not. So it's kind of like a way to, that's how we used to do it back in the day. The problem is that if I sort of now change my mask, it's everything that I did is kind of ruined. Let's see here. If you go over it, you'll see the mask now is, again, a little bit of Notre Dame. It's not as efficient and as easy as using the luminosity masking. But that's an option that you have also to fine-tune your mask. And if it's a little complex at first, this is just an intro. We'll do a lot of different projects here, and you'll see it's a very easy tool.